Aleister Crowley was a man who went by many names, among them the Beast 666. But how does a man get such a satanic moniker? Not for his selfless charity work, that much is for sure. He was an English occultist, ceremonial magician, spy, poet, and even a mountaineer, as you can imagine, a fairly untrustworthy one. He founded his own religious philosophy and is widely known for his occult writings. We'll get back to the origin of Crowley's satanic nickname soon, but first, let's look at Aleister's life when he went by the considerably less sinister name, Edward. On the 12th of October 1875, Edward Alexander Crowley was born into a wealthy but extremely religious family. In fact, despite their wealth, young Edward lived an almost monk-like existence. He barely ate, wore old clothes, and was made to sit inside and study the Bible while his classmates played. As you can imagine, bullying in Victorian schools make the swirly-giving jocks in your favourite high school drama look like girl guides, and Edward's life was made a misery. Having fundamentalist Christian parents in strict Victorian society was certainly a bit of a downer on Crowley, and as it often goes with children of extremists, young Edward was starting to be radicalized in a very different way. After the death of his father, Edward's health was deemed so poor thanks to his terrible lifestyle that he was also close to death. That is when his extremely cool uncle, complete with slightly questionable parenting style, decided to take the young boy away to the country. Together, they hiked, drank at the local pub, and Edward, now a teen, was introduced to the seedy world of 19th century prostitution. Now, a man in more ways than one, Edward moved back in with his mother, and his contempt for her zealotry was obvious. They clashed, as you would imagine, and his distraught mother claimed that her meek, mild, and sickly son had now become the beast from Revelations. Had this been a century later, it would have been the perfect time to start a metal band, but as I keep reminding you, this was Victorian England, complete with hats, moustaches, and perpetual frowns. So naturally, Edward began to pursue the occult, and tried to commune with Satan. If his own mother was comparing him to the devil, then perhaps that's exactly where Edward might find some guidance. During this time, Edward fought with his mother constantly. He even had sex with their housemaid in his mother's bed, causing outrage. The maid was fired and forced to retrain in Edward's favourite industry, prostitution. Crowley later claimed that his former maid became Jack the Ripper's first victim, and that the Ripper himself had told him as much. On that bombshell, Crowley moved to Cambridge, where he honed his skills at chess and writing dirty poetry. At this point, he began introducing himself as Aleister and was accompanied by sex workers on an almost daily basis. He had started to practice magic. Not the rabbit out of the hat TV talent show kind either, the communing with the spirits and raising the dead kind. As any young magician should, Aleister joined an order of wizards, the Order of the Golden Dawn, which sounds considerably more badass than Hufflepuff. There, he rubbed shoulders with the likes of Bram Stoker, writer of Dracula, and many other aristocratic occultists. Still conscious of his family's reputation, Crowley wore a disguise at the first meeting he attended, a bad one by all accounts, and his Golden Dawn wizard colleagues never really trusted him, even after coming clean. It was around this time when Crowley met his first wife, Rose Edith Kelly, and after a single day together, he convinced her to flee her previously arranged marriage and come to Egypt with him. With Rose under his proverbial spell, he took her to a cave in the desert and used her in a ritual to commune with the Egyptian God Horus. To Crowley's anger and disbelief, the spell actually worked, as Rose claimed to have heard the voice of Horus. Crowley's anger came from the fact that after all of these years of trying, he never experienced any breakthroughs whatsoever, and now his missus gets to chat to Horus on her first try. Rose instructed Crowley on how to create a ritual that would let him commune with the gods himself, and it was there in Cairo where Crowley had a spiritual experience that he called the Supreme Initiation. He developed his own system of magic, known as Thelema, based on the idea that each individual has a unique destiny or true will, which can be discovered through ritual and meditation. Crowley wrote the Book of Law, a sort of Thelema Bible, where he wrote, "Do what thou wilt shalt be the whole of the law." In short, do whatever you want to seek your own fulfillment. The next step for Crowley was obvious. He had the magic, the religious texts, along with the drug and sex addiction. It was time to start a cult.
Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration.
He moved to Italy, where he converted a villa into the Thelema HQ. There, his followers practiced meditation, yoga, and some nice calm spiritual attunement, along with rampant orgies, bestiality, and animal sacrifice. Crowley encouraged his followers to take LSD and sit in his nightmare room, a dedicated space for his horrific artwork, designed to turn good trips into very bad ones. After his cult was broken up by the horrified Italian authorities, Crowley returned to England in disgrace. He had developed a rather nasty heroin addiction, and his seemingly limitless inheritance funds had finally run out. With many thinking he was already dead, Crowley lived alone in a boarding house until he was found by a fan of his work who was very keen on having his child. The woman, Deirdre McClellan, nursed Crowley back to health, and together they had a son. In a rather unbelievable turn of events, Crowley was absolutely over the moon about becoming a father, and started to realize that perhaps instead of pure hedonism, wholesome family bonds were the way to find true spiritual peace. Crowley died in 1947 at 72 years old. He is survived by a catalogue of extreme occult writing, ranging from the interesting to the downright bizarre. His truly fascinating life and works have inspired massive social movements in the decades after his death. For example, the Beatles included him on their album art, Led Zeppelin engraved their records with his mantra from the Book of Law, and his teachings on living for yourself and your own spiritual journey did their part in inspiring the hippie and punk movements. They are all still studied by fans of the occult to this day. So there it is, the life of the Beast 666. What did you think? Leave a comment below if you've had any experiences with the occult, or if you have a suggestion on who you'd like to see next. And don't forget to drop us a like and subscribe if you want to see more.